Welcome to GRC Chats. Today our guest is Walter Haydock. I'm very happy to have you here today, Walter. Welcome.
Well, thanks a lot for having me on, Edja.
So before we jump into our discussion for today, can you shortly introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. So I'm the founder of StackAware, and we help AI-powered companies measure and manage their cybersecurity compliance and privacy risk.
Great. So with that being said, what topic are we discussing today?
Yeah, so in my opinion, a lot of organizations are building digital empires on sand. And by that, I mean they have a weak foundation that they're trying to assemble very complex technologies, specifically with respect to AI. So I spent the early part of my career in the US military. I also advised the US Congress on counterterrorism and cybersecurity issues. And I thought I understood chaos, but in the corporate world, it's a completely different story. It's a new type of chaos. And we're seeing rapid deployments of artificial intelligence systems without appropriate risk management procedures in place, the right guardrails in place. And I think that's setting organizations up for failure in certain areas. And the key thing that they need is an effective governance program.
Yep. Indeed, as you mentioned, I think like AI is, basically everywhere at this stage. It's in like, our lives, our daily lives, also in our business or, work lives, everything. And with that, we often hear about, like benefits of AI, but also, risks or, like dangers involved with it. So from your point of view, what are the key things that, our audience should be paying attention to when it comes to AI?
Yeah, so as far as the risk side of thing goes, I break down how I think about AI into three different levels. So the first level is AI models, and these are essentially inert without a supporting application on top of them. So that would be an example like GPT-2, which was an early predecessor of the models that we know today, or Llama, that's an open source model. The next level up would be AI applications, and these are what we interact with. This can be through a user interface like ChatGPT, or it could be through an application programming interface like what Anthropic or Google provides. And then the most advanced and potentially risky layer are AI agents. And that's when AI applications are interacting either with each other or with other deterministic systems like traditional databases or web browsing, things like that. So those are the three risk layers that I think about when it comes to AI. And at the model level, the key thing to think about is the data provenance that was used to train the model. So is it representative of your sample set? What are the intellectual property risks associated with that training that you've done? What's the quality of the data? Has anyone attempted to influence the outputs of the model by manipulating the data? So that's at the model level. At the application level, now you're really adding legs to the model, so to speak. You're giving it access to people and allowing it to provide information to them. So you want to look at how is that influencing decisions? Is it triggering any regulatory obligations? I know in the United States, in the European Union, there are laws that are in varying stages of maturity that regulate how we use AI systems in certain contexts. And then the most advanced level would be AI agents. And at this level, these agents are interacting with other systems, potentially without human interaction. And here you want to make sure that there are appropriate safeguards in place when it comes to having a human review the activities of the agent in action, or at least having some sort of threshold above which, if you exceed that, then the agent would be shut down. And then also understanding the potential chain reactions that can occur if agents are speaking to each other. So those are kind of the three risk levels to look at. And happy to talk more about what organizations should do to help manage these risks, but wanted to just pause there and give you a moment to respond.
Yeah, actually, I've never really looked into the risks and this kind of layers when it comes to AI. So that was actually very interesting to hear, especially with the level three where, AI agents interact or, interact with each other or things like that. So would it be maybe possible to give a more tangible example that, that maybe the our audience or the people that are using AI may not be noticing because people are used to automation, which also makes it interact on its own, but it's not the same thing. So just to maybe clear some confusion in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a good example of an AI agent that a lot of people are probably using on a daily basis, or at least interacting with, would be Microsoft Copilot Studio. And Microsoft Copilot Studio allows basically every user in an organization to be an AI engineer, and you can hook up models like OpenAI's GPT-4o to all sorts of processes within your business. For example, sending emails, accessing databases, doing all sorts of really critical work. You can hook up these agents to these data sources and you can make them available to other people within the organization. So, a key risk that I advise my clients on is making sure that if folks are using the Copilot Studio feature, it's possible to allow any user to inherit your permissions. So that could lead to exposure of confidential data if you're not careful. Additionally, if you're using the agent to make changes to a database, you want to make sure that you have a check on that action before it occurs to make sure that the agent didn't misinterpret your instructions. So if you ask it to change one database row and it changes every row in the database, that could be a big problem if you don't have a backup or a way to prevent that from happening ahead of time.
Mm. Thank you for clarifying that as well. And with that, I think now it is good to, like go into more actionable tips or things to, mitigate risks or, anything essentially that audience can implement or start implementing.
Yeah. For every organization, I would recommend three things. So, first of all, have an AI policy that doesn't necessarily need to be called the AI policy, but it does need to be something that's actionable and that is integrated into other guidance, maybe the acceptable use policy, maybe your information security policy, just so people understand which systems they're allowed to use and for what purposes, what data classifications they can process with them. So that's number one. Number two would be to have a solid asset inventory. So it's very difficult, even for smaller organizations, to track all the tools that they're using. And then when you add on that all these vendors are adding AI features to their products in a very rapid manner, it becomes difficult to track all the places that you're using AI. So understanding all the services and the models that you're using in your organization is a key step to managing risk from them. And then the third thing to do would be, as part of your AI policy, have a risk management procedure that allows you to evaluate the risks of using AI systems from a cybersecurity perspective, compliance perspective, privacy perspective, an ethical AI perspective, whatever your criteria are. And then use that risk assessment process to drive risk treatment options, whether that's, buying cyber insurance because your risk is increased, or mitigating the risk by opting out of training if you're concerned about data confidentiality, or avoiding the risk entirely by just not using a system. That's, my preferred method of risk treatment is just avoiding the risk. And then making sure you weigh the potential advantages of using an AI system against those potential risks and making a decision that makes sense for your business and for your stakeholders.
Yes, thank you for that as well. And with that, I actually don't have any other questions to ask. So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would say that things are moving quickly, and basically every organization which is in existence today is using artificial intelligence in one way or another. Whether you believe it or not, you are. At the very least, your vendors and your sub processors are using AI. So there's no way to avoid it. Every company is going to be an AI company in a relatively short period of time. So the best thing to do is to just accept that reality and get ready to manage the risk effectively.
And with that, I would like to thank you so much, Walter, for joining us today and sharing your insights. And I hope that our audience took some, actionable things that they can, you know, go ahead with. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Edge. I appreciate the time.
Likewise.